Um, Howdy, everybody. I'm really happy to introduce the team at Tradeport, and they'll be featuring their Byzantion API, which is integrated on there. I'm really happy seeing them come over from the Stacks ecosystem. Low key. Did the first NFT workshop on Stacks a while back before the Clarity Bootcamp,
Oh,
and
wow.
yeah, and I'm actually a .btc whale, so low key I got like 100 of those. So yeah, it's you're the first person from Stacks like to come from near to come to near. So I'm like, yeah, I'm really excited to see all the infrastructure you're building out. And yeah, you guys want to take it away?
Fantastic. Well, I really appreciate you having us on, and it's always great to meet some familiar faces from the Stacks ecosystem. Um, just kind of real brief, and I'll share. Oh, looks like Jacob is sharing his screen. Jacob, if you could, let's navigate to the Tradeport website just to kind of kick this thing off. If you just open up a new tab, please. Awesome. So this is the way, like, the entry point for a lot of people probably to get to know us. So we're Tradeport, so we're a multi-chain, multi-marketplace aggregator. But everything that you see on this website is powered by the Byzantion API. And if you're a builder, we think we've probably solved a lot of the core issues that you're banging your head against the wall to solve when it comes to building any type of NFT application. And when we think about like NFTs are this, very unique protocol, which the way we view them is like they're Amazon boxes, but with superpowers. So you can stick anything in them. So whether that's images of your favorite PFP project or media or music, or as things are progressing, like there's companies that are launched last week where they're actually taking their hotel room reservations and turning those into NFTs and tickets and whatever. We think of it like that. You can stick anything inside this Amazon box. And all of that data is recorded on chain. So it's like an Amazon box with superpowers, right? Where if you know the keys, you can track any asset that's ever existed across any chain. But the hard part is like, how do I actually read that data and build an application on top of it? Because the way a blockchain works, as you probably know, right, it's a ledger and it keeps track of every receipt that's ever happened. So every transaction that happens is kept as a receipt. And that's kind of the issue I think a lot of builders face. So if you go to like an API Explorer, you're just going to see just a log of every transaction that's happening on the chain. But when you want to start asking questions like, hey, what assets does this wallet hold? Or what assets are inside my smart contract? So what inventory do I have? That becomes fairly difficult. And you can kind of think of it like going to your bank and saying, hey, what do I have inside my account? And all they give you is every receipt of every transaction you've made. And you have to do the math to kind of add that up. And what you really want to see is just like, what is my balance? So give me the number inside my account. So that's kind of the problem that we try to solve inside indexing. And Jacob, if you could go inside the Byzantion website real quick. Thank you.
I apologize for the slow internet. I'm in Greece right now.
No worries. So we're talking across the world here. So thanks for the delays. But that's what we kind of solve. So we're a multi-chain NFT platform. And really what we're trying to solve for you is, you don't have to spend months creating chain-specific indexers. And I think what a lot of companies are doing right now is they'll launch a smart contract. So let's take Peros, for example, or like AstroDAO, whatever. They're going to launch a contract and they're going to build an indexer that tracks their smart contract over time and builds up kind of a database of data that they can query from to serve you inside of your UI. A lot of teams right now are kind of replicating the same amount of work. And unfortunately, a lot of those indexers are built very specific. And so when you try to add multiple smart contracts together, you end up like having to rebuild your infrastructure. So Byzantion's an agnostic infrastructure layer to where we will map any smart contract on a chain and make that data available to you in kind of a standard format. And it's available through a GraphQL interface. So like things like Tradeport is completely like 100% run on top of our API. So you can do very complex usage examples. So just scroll down real quick, Jacob. So at the very base level, we're just going to do an overview of everything that's available. We want to make all of our data, it's not just like read-only data, although we do have that. So we have full history of every NFT. You can query the API directly and get ownership for any wallet or any contract on chain. We give you the metadata for those NFTs. So if you're working with NFTs, you know there's typically a smart contract that creates these tokens. Each token has a unique identifier. It also links out to metadata, usually stored in something like Arweave or IPFS. So we scrape that metadata for you, so you don't have to build your own custom scrapers. We do fun things like rarity ranking. We track all mints. So the data is going to be live as soon as an NFT mints anywhere inside the Near ecosystem is going to be available through our API. And of course, we track like transfers and what a lot of like bot providers need, which is staking as well. Because when you stake your NFT, it's usually custodianed in some other contract. So it doesn't actually link directly back to you, even though you do own it. Keep going down. We track all marketplaces inside the ecosystem. So inside the Near ecosystem, like the major marketplaces right now, things like Paras and Apollo, Fufar, Mintbase, and of course Tradeport. We track all of those marketplaces. So in a unified format, you can get like all the listings and approvals on any NFT. We get all the bids, buys, order books, collection offers, and we track commissions and royalties as well. So you don't have to do that. If we keep going, we do have inside of kind of our premium API, we do have portfolio data as well. So this allows you to do like P&L statements. So if we bought Near NFT in January, right, the price of Near was much higher than it is today. And so it's important when you're doing things like taxes that you have a fiat peg in and out. So like, what was the fiat value of Near in January? And then what is the fiat value today, and to get a real P&L. So you can do how much money did you make or lose inside Near, and how much money did you make or lose inside USD, for example. And then finally, at the bottom, which is very helpful if you're building an NFT application that deals with rich media data, we host kind of all the images, video, audio. We allow for image resizing, optimization, and image formatting. The way we really kind of position the infrastructure is we can replace your entire backend, so you can focus on what makes making your product the best user experience possible. So what we're going to do today, just to kind of go over the API and how you might use it, is we're going to take some examples from Tradeport, and then we're going to go into the GraphQL API and say, okay, how would you actually replicate this using our API? So the first one that we're going to jump in and kind of tackle, which is going to be the entry point for most users, is just what's inside your wallet. So Jacob, if you could navigate on Tradeport and let's go to a user's gallery. So we're going to go in here. So this is a user. You have your wallet address up at the top, and then of course you have this gallery below. So when you start with any application that allows a user to sign in, right, you're going to want to know what assets do they actually have in their wallet. And that's the great thing about Web3 is you can sign into any application, right, and bring all your assets with you. So we're going to replicate this page via our API. And Jacob, if you could walk us through that, that would be awesome. And maybe give a high-level overview of kind of the different entities inside the API as well.
Yeah. So first of all, to note, we have a link to a API cookbook here on the Byzantion site. If you go here, we kind of have the common queries and questions that people have, which we call recipes. So this one, wallet ownership. So we have it so you can just copy the query and then go into the Explorer and paste it in like so. And then there's also variables here too that we give. Copy that and paste it in. I've already done so. And if you run the query on the right side, it shows the results. And here I talk a little bit more of, I'll first talk about the root entities we have. So we have action, bid attribute, bid state, a bid state NFT meta, which is just a joining table, chain collection, NFT meta, NFT state list. So these are all kind of like the major root entities that you would want to query on the chain. So for this example of getting NFTs in someone's wallet, And with this Explorer, you can actually just click to explore and build a query that way. So instead of having to type this out or paste it in, you could, if you're just exploring and you want to know what the data is, you can just click on, okay, in collection, I want to see what fields are available. So you can click on the different fields that there are, and then it builds this query for you right here. So you can just select what you want and see what there is and see what kind of relationships each table has with each other. So I'm going to go back to that query here, run it. So we start at the NFT meta table, which is the table for all the data we have on an individual NFT token. And we have fields here like token ID, the name of it, the image, the ranking. So you can see here in the results that this is the image through our pinata. And this is the different other fields, name, token ID, the rarity and ranking. We do those as well. And then it's related collection. And so these are the NFTs. This is the data that's being fetched. To fetch the specific NFTs for this wallet, that's in the where clause here. So I set up a variable. So you pass in the name of the wallet. So I'm passing in plews.near. You could pass in any wallet you like. So if I copy this wallet, go back and paste it in here. Now it's going to be the NFTs that you see on the site here. So let's see, there's a money pixel. Let's see if we can see the money pixel. Yep, right here. And so you pass in through NFT state. NFT state is the table that we keep track of the state of the NFT. So those are things that change or are dynamic about NFT meta. So that's the listings, the list seller, if it's listed or not, when it was listed, different things like that. So we keep that in a separate table for you to query. And so to get the NFTs that you own, you have to see who the current owner is. So you make a query on where the NFT state, where the owner equals whatever wallet you're passing in. And then this is all the data that's returned.
This is probably an important distinction, just in the way we have data laid out. There's kind of two main groupings that we're doing here. One is NFT meta and one is NFT state. So meta is what you think of when you think of metadata, right? So it's like what images, attributes, rarities, that's all metadata for the token. And then there's the state of the token. And so if we drop in, Jacob, could you just open up the field for NFT state? And we can just walk through kind of what values are inside of that. Yeah, the left-hand side. Awesome. So here you can see, like, is the NFT burn true or false, right? What's the ID of that NFT? So what was the mint transaction? So what transaction created this one? Is it minted or not minted? Right? Sometimes, like inside the Pros API, right, there's a lot of NFTs that you actually pull, but they're not minted yet, so they haven't come into existence. Of course, you're going to know anytime talking about state. So this is like, how do things exist inside the world? Who's the owner, right? When did that owner, so owner block height, so at what point did they become the owner of this NFT? What was the transaction ID? Is it staked? If it is staked, who is the staked owner? So these are all fields inside of what we call state. So where does the NFT exist inside the blockchain? And then below that, we have another entity, which is called state lists. And this is how we deal with listings across, multiple marketplaces. So like, is there a listing or an approval on this NFT? If so, at what price? Is there a commission associated with it? What function arguments do you need to pass in to buy that NFT? Is it listed, true, false, etc.? So this is where we kind of deal with this entity that we call what are listings, and everybody would know what a listing is if you deal with a marketplace. We have similar kind of attributes if you think about staking. So Jacob, could you go down to scroll down real quick on that API? And NFT state list, etc. Okay, so those are kind of the main things. You can also break down into the smart contract. So this is where you'd find details about the NFT's smart contract itself, right? So what is its contract ID? Is it custodial? And we have a bunch of different kind of parameters around that. We'll see asset name, kind of depending on what chain you're on. If it's a marketplace, so what marketplace is actually listed in, what are the function mappings for those marketplaces? So kind of through the GraphQL API, rather than kind of a standard REST API, instead of kind of having to make multiple queries where you go, okay, show me all the NFTs that are listed inside a wallet. So you get all the NFTs back, and then you got to query every NFT individually to get the metadata for those NFTs or the listings. You can kind of compose any type of query or any type of question you want to ask the chain just in one query, because we're using GraphQL. So it's just a little bit easier to navigate. The next thing that I want to go into, and Jacob, thanks for showing that. This is super helpful if you want to like just get, okay, what's inside my wallet? I want to represent these NFTs inside of a gallery, etc. The next thing that we want to go over for is what is the transaction history of your wallet? So Jacob, if you can navigate to Tradeport real quick, and then let's go into the activity page. So you could think of like, if you're the Meteor wallet, which they do this as well, you just want to see every transaction that this wallet has done over time. You can also get all this type of data through the API as well. So let's build this query, Jacob.
Okay. Let's cheat and wallet transaction history.
So let's kind of break this down real quick. So let's just stay on this page. 1 second, Jacob. So the first thing, our entry point here is going to be actions. And actions is a table that if anybody's gone to an Explorer, right, you see a transaction, but you don't really know what it is. Like, is that a buy transaction? And buy transactions are going to look different across Paros and Tradeport and Apollo. We have different function names, but even though it's kind of doing essentially the same thing. And so you can think of the actions table like where we have labeled a transaction as some specific type of action. And actions in ours are like stake, unstake, buy, list, unlist, bid, collection offer, etc. And that's where you're going to find the actions here. So that's going to be our entry point. So we're asking, okay, what actions or what is the history of a specific wallet? We're going to jump into the actions table. On our wheres, of course, we're going to pass in like where wallet equals whatever wallet we want to look up. And then if we continue to break down this query, of course, we're going to want to sort it by history through kind of starting with the highest block, etc., where you can reverse those orders. In this, we're going to want inside those actions, because we're going to deal with listings, etc. Of course, we're going to want the list price of any list, what action it is, the bid price, if it's a bid, buyer, seller, transaction ID, block time, the market name. So we'll also show you what market was that listing on, etc. And then of course, pull in the NFT data. So if you want to drop those query params in,
Yeah.
and I'll let you take it from here, Jake.
Yeah, so in this where clause here, we're saying where the seller is whatever wallet you put in, and where they've sold, or when the action is either list, asking price, relist, or unlist, because we want to know, in their case, if they're a seller, why these actions are in there. So we have multiple different types of actions, like Josh explained. We have buy, accept bid, accept collection bid. These are all built from our Tradeport to make it so when you filter, you can filter based off the different types of actions. So that's why it's kind of in this funky format right now with the different objects that get passed in. But it's pretty simple to just put in what type of action you want and the seller or the buyer, their wallet name, and that's how you get returned all of the activity on this wallet.
Cool. So we can see here as like the data is being populated inside the actions. Of course, we start at the top with the very first object that it passed back, right? This is a transfer action. And we're going, okay, who is the buyer and the seller? So in this, buyer and seller can also represent like from and then to, like if you think of that. So it went from clues.near. We head back to the API, Jacob. It went from clues.near to Mufasa.near, right? And it's going to pass in that transaction ID. So if you want to link out to an explorer, you know what transaction happened in, gives you the block time, the market name. It's just a transfer, so there isn't a market name. Gives you the collection. So they're transferring the secret skellies. It was token ID 774, and there's an image, etc. So you can kind of compose this. So as little data as you want, or as most data you want. So that is how you would do the history of a NFT, like your NFT wallet. The next thing we want to do, which is like a very common use case that we find, especially anybody that's dealing with a DAO or is running a Discord bot, kind of the first thing that they want is like, who are the holders of my collection? So let's say that you're running ASAC, you're running Astro DAO, and you want to see everybody who owns, say, a NEAR. Like how would you do that? How would you build that query so that you could do token gating inside your bot? So we're going to build this one. I don't know that we have a cookbook for this. We may have to build this one from scratch. Yeah. So the very first thing that we're going to want to entry point into is likely like you're thinking of a collection, right? So we're going to say, I want to show, and in this case, just because we know the slug, we're going to do, say, ASAC near. So I want to see all ASACs and all their holders, and we just want that data. So Jacob's going to fill this in. So we're starting at collection where slug equals ASAC.near. The slug is kind of a unique identifier for any NFT collection on chain, right? And then there's a lot of NFTs that make up this. So the next thing that we're going to want to do is, do you own these NFTs? So I'm going to pass in unique data for every NFT and who owns it. So Jacob, can you walk us through that?
Okay, so where the slug is ASAC, and then we want to check through the NFT meta, because right, we have the NFT state nested under NFT meta. So you have to get to NFT state, where the owner equals, oh, my bad. We're just looking at this collection in general. Yep. Oh, got it. This is when we're actually fetching the data is down here, not in the where clause. So we're going to want to get NFT meta, then NFT state, then the owner. And if we run that,
so this
we can see.
Yep. So this gives you a unique list of all owners. But one thing that we know that happens inside of a chain is that NFTs can get staked. And when you query the chain for who owns this NFT and an NFT staked, it's going to return the staking contract rather than who actually owns that NFT. So inside this, if we also want all the owners who have staked their NFTs, we just hit the staked owner attribute and it'll pass that back as well. So a lot of these are null, but you'll see that one right there. It's owned by ACEKJ.near. And just for this to be helpful, Jacob, would you mind passing in the token ID as well so we can see which ASAC these are?
Yeah. We'll do the NFT name and the NFT token ID.
And boom. So you can see there that these, so token ID 2161 is being staked by ASEC.near. Cool. So that kind of wraps up that. So if you were going to build a Discord bot that wanted to do token verification, this is the query you would use it with. And you can use this for any collection that you want it to. So we have a couple more that I want to go through that are just kind of like common use cases. And the next one is like, if you just want to show a marketplace, right? So Jacob, if you could navigate to Tradeport. And then let's go to the ASAC collection marketplace. So here. So in this case, there's a lot going on here, right? So this is every NFT, all of its listings right? So, and then if you click the marketplace down arrow there on the left, right? So we're not just showing listings from one marketplace, but we're actually aggregating all listings across all marketplaces. So as you can imagine, that'd be pretty hard to do, but thankfully with the API, it's quite easy. So this is the page that we're going to build. We're going to get every NFT that's listed and its price for all ASACs across all marketplaces.
Great. Okay, so do we want to start with NFT meta? It repopulates your last query here. I think we have a cookbook on this. Collection marketplace. We also have things for even the top section. So getting the stats on a collection right here. Things like the floor price, that's the current floor price, the collection size, like the supply of NFTs, total volume, things like that. But let's go down to here. Okay, so we start with NFT meta because we want to see all the NFT metas where the collection slug equals ASAC. So we're passing in where the slug equals ASAC, we're passing in where it's listed true on this current filter. You can say listed false or listed true, depending on what you want. And then we're ordering by token ID. And then what we start at is NFT meta, like I said. We're getting back all of the information on the NFT, including its related collection title. That way we can see this collection title here on the card. We are fetching all of the listings for the NFT, including the different fields on the listings, like the list seller, the list price, the contract that it was listed on, and the time it was listed. And so here's all the data that was returned. And this is the same data that is used to build out this grid of all these cards on the front end.
Fantastic. Thanks for that, Jacob. And then if you go down on the right-hand side, right, let's go into NFT list. So if you see that where that object says NFT state list, it gives you the list price in a string format, right? Near uses, we have a very large amount of decimal places. So we also give it into a string format so JavaScript doesn't mess it up for you. Gives you the seller, what the last block time was and what the contract key of that listing. So if you look at that first one, you're going to see that ASAC number 4 is listed inside the Paros marketplace. So it's going to give you all that data as well. And if you scroll down here inside the NFT state, Jacob, on the right-hand side. Yeah. Also, NFT state can have multiple lists. So if you see an NFT state list, it's actually an array, right? So if there's more than one listing, Near is very unique and awesome in that you can actually list your NFT across multiple marketplaces at one time. So it'll actually return all the listings to you. So we try to just make that as useful as possible. Now, if we go back to Tradeport, one of the things that you're going to want to do, obviously, is if I click into, say, that any one of these NFTs, so go ahead and click there. You're going to want to get the attributes for those NFTs as well. And so that's what we're going to show next is like, okay, I've selected my specific NFT. I want to show all the attributes for it, including its rarity and etc. So we're going to build that query.
Okay, so for a specific NFT, we want to start at the NFT meta. And let me just create a new query here. There we go. Start with the NFT meta, and we can grab the name and the image just so we know what we're looking at here, and the ranking and rarity. And then nested underneath the NFT meta is NFT meta attributes. And you can select the different fields that you want to bring in. So the score, the rarity, the trait type, and the value of the attribute. So this is just returning all metas, and it just limited it for us. But as you can see, for these NFTs, they have these attributes. So this trait type of background has the value of desert, and then this rarity here is the percent of how rare it is compared to the rest of the NFTs in the collection. So this would be 0.28% of all of the collection. That's how rare it is compared to it. And Josh, you can explain the score as well here.
Yeah, so we use the same kind of scoring mechanism as Rarity Sniper. We are playing with adding, I know there's a lot of different ways to do rarity. So OpenSea has kind of established their own model. Of course, there's like Rarity Sniper, and there's do you want rarity based on to calculate based on the amount of attributes it has. And there's a lot of controversy there. So we use, we do account for the amount of attributes that are inside of an NFT, and we use that in our rarity calculations, and we use the same one that Rarity Sniper uses. So we are exploring kind of supporting multiple types of rarity, but currently that's the one we use. Great.
Yeah.
So go ahead, Jacob.
I was just going to say, to make this a little bit more useful in this specific case, if we wanted to get the attributes for this guy, in the where clause here, the NFT meta, you would do where the collection slug equals asac.near, and then where the token ID equals 2149. So now we can get the attributes for the specific NFT.
Fantastic. Cool. So we just have a few more here, and then we'll open up to questions if people have them. The last one is, let's say that you want to query not just again, and we're gonna have to build this one from scratch, so we'll see if we can do it. Let's say that we want to get all NFTs that are listed, not based on a collection, but like we want to see every NFT that's listed on Tradeport or that's listed on Paras. So this is kind of a different entry point and kind of building your queries where it's like, I just want to see the NFTs that are listed regardless of the collection across an entire marketplace. So this would be like querying a smart contract directly. Jacob, you think you're up for this one?
Yeah. So are we wanting to get the listings themselves or the NFT metas?
The listings themselves. So let's just do all listings inside Tradeport.
Perfect. So you start here at NFT state list. So these are all the listings. And then you would filter it where the list contract, and then the list contract, we have contract key equals, let's do market.tradeport.near, which is our contract. And then let's bring in a little more useful information than just the ID. Let's do list price, list seller, if it's listed or not. And then we can then go to entity
do where listed equals true, probably.
Oh, yep. If you want just the listed ones, do where listed equals true. And then let's get the related NFT metas to these listings. Let's get the name. So
fantastic. So here you can see, okay, and you could do this for any marketplace or kind of any smart contract on the chain where it's like, okay, I want to show all listings from this marketplace, regardless of the collection, but just show me the inventory of this marketplace. And this is how you would do it. Awesome, Jacob, I really appreciate this. Just to kind of do a review, and then we'll open up to questions if anybody has it, or we could build some custom queries. We'll just go into the Byzantion website one more time. Just to go through this, if anybody who's watching this or anybody on the call today wants to go and just explore the API without needing to request like a demo API account, you just want to like jump around and explore. At the top of the page, you can go to the API Explorer. So Jacob, you just click there, and that's going to give you like a nice GraphQL user interface that we saw today that you can just play around with. Also, we always put out new API cookbooks for common use cases that people are asking for. And so you can find those documentation inside the API cookbook. And if you got more requests or questions about how would you build this or get this data, feel free to reach out to us in Twitter or Discord, and we'd love to kind of build those queries for you. But we appreciate you guys taking the time. I don't know if anybody has any questions or if y'all want us to expand on anything, we'd love to help out. Oh, so we got a question in here. So how do you manage time complexities here? Could you expand on that question just a little bit of what you mean there, Bob? Are you asking like how we manage like when listings are happening or like what the order is? Runtime. You may have to expand even more there. So runtime meaning like how fast is the API? So like, is it like up to date with the current chain or? Sorry, just trying to get clarity on the question so I could properly answer it. If anybody's wondering where this conversation is happening, if you jump into the Zoom chat, that's where Bob is typing. Cool. I'm going to take my best guess. Don't have more clarification there, but just so people do know. The way, and we talked about this a little bit, like the Byzantion architecture works, right? We run our own data lakes. So we're getting live transactions from RPC nodes, and we're building up our own kind of, we're storing all of our transactions inside of our own data lake so we can efficiently query it. We do deal with, and we handle like all chain forks and making sure that we're running against the canonical version of the chain. So one of the interesting things about NEAR, and which everybody knows, is NEAR has sharding and also it's an asynchronous environment, which means if you sign a transaction in one block, it's going to actually confirm receipts across multiple blocks. And let's say that a transaction receipt fails, or you sign a transaction and it's going to confirm across like 10 consecutive blocks. And the first 6 blocks confirm, so everything's working properly, but block 7 fails. Then that transaction a lot of times is actually going to be nullified. So all the transactions before it are no longer confirmed, and you have to handle for that. So like, does the full transaction actually kind of confirm so you don't have any errors inside the contract call? So we handle that. So that's kind of one of the hard things about indexing is you need to watch and make sure that this transaction confirms. Once a transaction is then confirmed, then it gets processed for indexing. So as soon as that's like live, as soon as it runs through kind of our interpretation layer and our indexing layer, it's live within the API. So you're looking at like 1 second past block times or past final confirmation before it's available to you. You can subscribe to live updates kind of through the API. So if you want like anytime a transaction kind of confirms, you want that pushed to you, you can do that. And we actually, if you go to Tradeport, you'll see that live. Inside Trader View, inside of our activity feeds, everything's actually being processed live, and that's available to you as well. So I don't know if that's what you meant by that question, but that's kind of how we handle time. Second thing, inside all transactions, we always have the block height and the block time ISO. So if you're trying to order transactions or like, history of listings, et cetera, or any type of action, you can always order that by like the canonical state of the chain. So that's how we like typically handle time inside of our environment. I see the heart sign, so I think I hit that question correctly. So thanks for that. It's a great question.
Wait, so you have like notifications built into your like API, like you can get notified on like anytime NFT is transferred or like anything like that?
Correct.
That's fire.
So like if anybody, I mean, a lot of times that we see this available, and even inside Tradeport, we're kind of working with the notify team so that you can subscribe to live updates. But if anybody wants to build like a Discord bot where it's just, I want to watch this wallet, and I want to be alerted anytime something happens on this wallet, whether that's your own. So like anytime I receive a bid or you want to do like whale watching, you can do that live on top of the API.
Oh yeah, also, yeah, we're doing a workshop with Notify. They're about to roll out their new integration either like I'm pretty sure either tonight or tomorrow, but
Yeah.
we're doing a workshop with them next week on using their SDK. I wanted to know a little bit about like how you guys deal with like dynamic NFTs or NFTs that are like known to change, or whether there's any like attribute in the API that deals with that, or even like non-transferability and like SBTs, or whether yeah, if you
Yeah, it's a great question. So I know since we're in the NFT working group together, it'll be interesting to see as soulbound tokens get rolled out. If they have a different NFT standard, then we'll just be able to track them and mark them as a soulbound token. So you're not like endlessly trying to transfer something that can't be transferred. So as soon as those specs are created, we'll be able to handle it. Currently with dynamic NFTs, there's kind of two approaches. And we, in the last month, we've completely rebuilt our scraping engine, so it's extremely fast. The way we do there is, and we're in a few ecosystems now, so I'm trying to keep everything straight. But inside the Near ecosystem, what we need to do is build what we call micro indexers that watch for the token metadata URI to get updated. And anytime it's updated, then we rescrape. We're also working, like if you're, let's say that won't update. So sometimes you can't update the metadata for an NFT without updating the token URI if it's not stored on IPFS, because you can just change, like if you link it out to say like an AWS bucket, rather than using IPFS, you can just change what data it references. And in that case, we wouldn't know about it. So what we're doing right now is we're building an API endpoint for our anybody who's building on top of our API. If you want to trigger a rescrape for an NFT, so or like you're a collection owner, it's like, okay, I just updated it inside my AWS bucket, and the indexer that's watching the chain would have no idea that this NFT has been updated, but you can trigger a rescrape, and so that's kind of how we're handling it. So there's two ways. If the metadata actually gets updated on chain, we'll pick it up. If it's updated through like a Web 2 URL, because you can just change whatever data you want, then it would require like a manual scrape for us to be alerted to know to rescrape it.
and just some context on that, there is Lachlan from Few and Far. He did submit an NEP around like giving like a metadata update log for yeah for to like emit that type of message, and then Olga, like she replied with like NEP 438 around like a flag, whether it's a dynamic NFT or not. So hopefully that'll help and index quicker. I wanted to know a little bit about like what is, because we were speaking on before the call. Well, firstly, like this, you got Tradeport's also on Stacks. So like, is this Byzantion API? Can I query Stacks NFT data, or is that like a separate like thing?
Yep. So you can query Stacks NFT data as well. And then as soon as we go live with Aptos, which we're wrapping up now, you'll be able to query Aptos data as well. And what's nice about that is it's in the same format, so your like queries won't break. That's kind of so if you're like an application developer and you want to support multiple chains, or you're a wallet wants to support multiple chains, like you can just literally just import Aptos data and you just sign those transactions a little bit differently.
And is there like a chain ID, or like how do you indicate which chain that you're querying? Like if they're like conflicting addresses and things like that, like what's, yeah, how do you do that?
Yep. So there's a chain ID. So you'll see up there as on the left-hand side, there's the chain right there. And so like any listing or NFT will link back to its original chain. So it's very easy to filter.
Okay, can you talk, because that's very powerful. I know a lot of different people are coming from different ecosystems, and knowing that there is an indexer to help kind of alleviate a lot of that workload, especially that's coming to like an ecosystem like near you. Like what can you kind of like outline a little bit about your indexing roadmap?
Yeah, definitely. So as we touched on before, we started in Stacks, which is going to be a very boutique chain. I'm actually very impressed. You know what Stacks was or been part of it. So that was a smart contract layer for Bitcoin. We went to Near next for a couple of reasons. One, we love Near. We thought Near was probably like the most cutting edge chain. There's been a lot of amazing kind of developments there. One was sharding, and then with asynchronous transactions. And of course, it's extremely fast. So as we kind of started our multi-chain journey, we wanted to make sure that we future-proofed our architecture for kind of what the bleeding edge is at this time. The next chain that is going live is Aptos. A couple different reasons. There's a lot of crossover between the Near and Aptos ecosystems. There's a lot of builders building on both. So just our own existing clients kind of, hey, index Aptos, there's no infrastructure over there. So we did that. Now we're looking at a couple different variables, and our roadmap is changing quite a bit. We're likely going to be adding Solana next. As we know, there's just a ton of crossover in those three ecosystems, being Aptos, Near, and Solana. We'll pick up Sui when it comes live as well. And then we're going to start into the EVM chains. So we're kind of doing reverse of what most infrastructure providers do. Most infrastructure providers just stay in the EVM chains, or they at least started and are going to stay, and they may pick up Solana. But we want to definitely cater to where the most developers are, and we're picking up a lot of the smaller chains and then moving into the EVM. And what's nice is we're talking about very different blockchain architectures, but it all be kind of a unified format if you build on top of us. So that's our current roadmap. We expect to be like in the top 15 to 20 chains over the next 12 to 16 months. We're adding a new chain about every 2.5 to 3.5 months. And so that's kind of our current progress.
And that's the like indexing roadmap, but Tradeport has like more functionality than just like indexing. So can you kind of, for people who haven't used it yet, kind of go over just like the features on Near that you have?
Yeah, of course. Jacob, if you could, let's go back to the Tradeport website and we'll go over the roadmap. So let's just start at the home page. So for people who don't know, and this will happen for every chain that we add, in the top right-hand corner, if you just want to see Near, you can filter for Near. If you just want to see stacks, you can filter for stacks by just like hitting these filters. But from a feature standpoint, right, we probably have one of the more advanced marketplaces just on the market in general. So we can jump into like any of these NFT collections. Jacob, let's do one with good volumes. We can just hit Secret Skellies. Tradeport is an aggregator. So that means that you can buy and sell and list and bid from any marketplace. So you can actually list your NFTs across all marketplaces at once. And you can check this if you go down to the bottom left and hit the marketplace tab. You'll see that we're pulling in listings from every marketplace. So even some more esoteric ones. Then we also have trader view, right? So this is kind of like the normal view that most NFT collectors are used to, but then we go into trader view. This is kind of like a more pro trading tools. On the left-hand side, you can see all listings come in. Right now they're sorted by price, but you can also sort them by date. And so if there's like a really fast mint, all this data will just stream in live, and you can see next to it all the active trades that are going on. Then you've got all trades. You can change that span to all time in the trades graph. And it'll take a second to update. But then you can see kind of like how has the floor price moved over time. You go down, you can build floor wall. And it's important to note that all of this is powered by the API, right? So all this data, there's nothing special going on here. This is available to anybody if they want to build similar things. So you can do floor walls, you can do rarity distribution, you can do best deals by rank. So we just try to give you all the information that you might ever want right here. And then also if we go into somebody's wallet, so let's go into your wallet, Jacob. And then we want to list an NFT. You can do list singularly here, and you can list on every marketplace if you'd like to, but you can also do bulk list. So up at the top, let's say we want to sign and list a lot of different NFTs at once. You can do bulk listing. So that's kind of a unique feature, only available on Tradeport. We are releasing bidding today, so you're going to be able to bid. We've got, if you go to your portfolio view, actually, let's go to something like Crown Jewel. It's just got a more interesting portfolio analytics. BTC. This will take a second to load. It's got to do a lot of processing here.
There's been a lot of transactions.
Yeah, so let's go down here and we can go back up to the chart. So here you can see like the total realized profit and loss for this account. right? And this is based in fiat terms. So you can see it both in the stacks and in fiat. And this is like real data. So if this account sold, an NFT 7 months ago when the price of stacks was different, right? It's going to account for the actual USD price in that transaction and for what it bought it for. You can go up to the top, you can see the allocation of this wallet. So just drop into the allocation tab. So like how is its NFTs distributed across all different collections? And you can see the chart, which will allow you to check what was its portfolio value a year ago or 90 days. Yeah. So, we've got Tradeport has, probably one of the more complex portfolio systems. So hopefully this will be helpful for you guys during tax season. Our current roadmap, as it stands, is bidding is going live today, which is, I know, like a much requested feature for the NEAR ecosystem. Then we're going to be integrating kind of the Aptos network. So, you're going to be able to buy and sell your stacks, NEAR, and Aptos NFTs. The API is going to be aggregating some of the AMMs, which is called portals inside the Topaz market, and collection offers as well. Right now, we're really focused on just making the usability better. So we're going to be, if you scroll down to the bottom right, if you have any feature requests, or bug reports, this launched today. So you can report bugs, feature requests, general feedback. And we're really focused on just making this the smoothest experience possible as we continue to develop features. So hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, and I want to go and one of the things that really like excited me about Tradeport is the multiple listings. So is that something that's only available on NEAR or only possible on NEAR? Or like, can you kind of explain the architecture and how that works? If like someone buys it on one marketplace, can you explain like how listing to multiple marketplaces like actually works?
Yeah, of course. So the way I think it's pretty innovative, at least I don't know if it was purpose built this way, but it was definitely smart inside the NFT standards inside NEAR. So NFTs on NEAR use what are called approvals. And so if you look at an NFT itself, the NFT contract is saying, okay, I approve the Paras API, I approve the Tradeport or the Paras marketplace contract, the Tradeport marketplace contract, the Apollo marketplace contract to be able to transfer this NFT. So it sets an approval and it can set multiple approvals, not just one. And then inside each marketplace, you're saying, okay, I telling this marketplace that you can sell this NFT for X amount. So you can actually set different prices on different marketplaces. And then if someone buys that NFT, right? So let's say it's bought off the Tradeport API, the NFT contract itself removes all other approvals. So once this bot is transferred, the NFT gets transferred and you receive that NFT, all those other approvals got deleted, right? So other people can't buy your NFT. So that's just built into NEAR, right? It's kind of one of the standards is having that approval function. It is unique. It's not that it can't be done on every other chain. It's just the way the standards were built. So like in stacks for existence, you can't do that. You can only list NFTs on one marketplace, but if we updated our standards, we could actually allow for approval functionality. Inside the EVMs, we're starting to see that. So you can actually list across, what's called multi-tenanting your NFTs because you can set approvals for multiple contracts. But things like Aptos is actually a custodian. The way they've written their standards is when you list your NFT, it actually gets custodianed into the NFT marketplace itself. So you can only list on one marketplace at a time. So NEAR just did a really good job, I think, in y'all's original standards, but it does cause maybe some issues for other marketplaces inside the ecosystem, which aren't tracking all approvals, or they're only indexing against their one smart contract, because if it gets bought on another marketplace and they didn't index that, then they still think that that NFT is still actively listed inside their marketplace when it's not. And so those transactions will start failing. So it's really just kind of other players inside the ecosystem need to update their indexing models, or they could use Byzantion. But yeah, that's what's going on.
And it is very interesting that you mentioned like different pricing for different marketplaces. Is there like different kind of ways, maybe like fees are set on different marketplaces that may incentivize people to do different prices? And like, are there ways that they're reflected within Tradeport? Like how does that work?
Yeah, Jacob, would you like to, let's drop out of bulk list here and let's go into a single NFT. I think you'll have to exit. Yeah, there you go. So let's just list one of these things. All right, so let's select all. Oh, do we still have that feature? We can list across multiple. Do you know, Jacob?
Sorry, what feature?
You list at different price points is across multiple marketplaces.
Oh, if it's currently listed, we show that. So
Okay, so let's go to listing.
so here the current listings.
So let's just say that we wanted to update. Let's say we wanted to list this NFT instead of at new 2 on Peros, let's update it to like 5. Just go 5, confirm that listing. All right, so let's drop into that free duck. Just open up its page. No.
Oh.
There you go. Scroll down. All right, so you can see here, like it's got all of its listings across all marketplaces. So on those, it's 2 and then it's 5. And if we actually go to this NFT on Peros, let's see if we can do that, Jacob. Go to Peros's website and find this sucker.
Okay. I'm logged in.
So you can see that it's listed there for 5, but you can buy it for a lower price if you want. And so yes, to answer your question, like there's different marketplaces have different commission rates, or maybe even royalty rates, and you could set accordingly as you'd like.
Yeah, so like is there any there's not currently like a display of those like different marketplace rates right now? Like
That's a good question, Jacob. Do we have that? I know we do on Stacks, which we can show. So Jacob, if you could go to a Stacks wallet. No, log into your Stacks wallet.
Oh, this thing is getting in my way. There we go.
And then let's go to your NFTs. So let's list. To here, and then just do like $5. And then scroll down. So here you're going to start to see like what the artist fee is and what the commission fee is. And if you go into the marketplace and you go to buy an NFT, it also tells you what the commission is and what the artist fee is as well. So I think we need to do some updating on the model there for the Near ecosystem. I was just like pulling that data out of the contracts, but we do have that actively inside the Stacks ecosystem. And that's something we plan on providing in Near as well.
and so say I'm a marketplace looking to get like aggregated into your indexer. Like what's the process, or how do you guys like dynamically do that?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So we typically kind of pick up all marketplaces, but if there's like a new marketplace or there's a new contract that you want indexed and to be available, you just kind of reach out to us. And we look at it a couple different ways, right? I mean, we're always adding kind of new features. It's not on our current roadmap. Typically we'll charge. So if it's like, hey, here's this new use case, it doesn't get a ton of volume, but we want it to be supported, then we'll charge a small indexing fee. And that's kind of on a case-to-case basis, but you can think of those as between like $2,000 to say like $10,000, which sounds like a lot, but it beats hiring engineers to kind of do that indexing for you. If it's on a roadmap or it's high volume, we'll prioritize it and we'll probably pick it up anyways. But that's how we typically handle like new contracts that are being indexed. There is if people do want kind of like build their own indexers, we do have like an open source version for like vertical indexing. It's called Alexandria, which I could probably drop in the show notes at some point. But it is like a full framework for setting up your own indexers to like index off a single contract. So it's like, hey, the price is a little too steep for me to pay Byzantion, but I'd like to do it myself. You're free to use those tools and do that as well.
Yeah, any questions from the audience? I know I just asked a lot.
Great questions though, so I appreciate you asking them.
Yeah, there's a lot of alpha here, like the multiple listing, just like everything, to be honest. This is pretty, a lot of people in the ecosystem don't know. I actually got hit because like Meteor Wallet made the intro. So yeah, shout out to them. See, that was like the default on here, but yeah, and anybody here, I see some octopus heads. I see ASAC in the building.
Oh, great question. Where are you based, Josh? So, fun question. I'm typically international. I've kind of done the digital nomad life for about 6 years. So I've lived in like 30 countries. Right now, I'm back in my hometown in Arkansas visiting family for the holidays. But typically you're gonna find me in a new country, depending on what month you call me. But we were in Mexico, we've been in Spain, we've been in the Republic of Georgia this year, Montenegro, etc. But right now I'm in Arkansas. And most of our team is very similar to us. So we actually kind of traveled together. So it was really fun. Jacob and Daniel and Mary and Lewis and Ozzy and oh, we'd love to have you guys in New York. I was in New York City a month and a half ago. So next time I'm up there, I will definitely ping you, and yeah, it'd be great to connect.
Yeah, Joanna leads near NYC.
Oh,
She's
fantastic.
there.
Y'all work out of Empire DAO, or where are you guys located? Yes, until end of year. Fantastic. Yeah, there's a great group of people there. We met with the head of the Optimism biz dev team last time we were up there. That's why we were by Empire DAO, but we'd love to connect and get to know you as well.
Yeah, speaking of, what's the EVM roadmap? And are you like, are you using stuff like the graph, or like what's kind of like the way you're approaching that?
Yeah, it's a great question. So EVM is going to be quite fun, especially when you get into mainline ETH. It's just been around forever and there's hundreds of standards. So we don't rely on any third-party APIs. So when we move into an ecosystem, like we'll typically either run our own RPC node or use, the only thing that we'll ever outsource is maybe the RPC node, but in a lot of ecosystems, we run them ourselves. And then we start to build up our own transaction history. When we move into EVM, what we're planning to do is probably go to some of the L2s or 1.5s first. Polygon's not even, depending on how you really want to frame that. We're in talks with the, Polygon Foundation and their biz dev teams. So we're either going to start there, kind of optimism, and do the L2s and then move into mainline ETH. Once you get an EVM down, it's a lot easier, of course. That's kind of the whole purpose of the EVM, kind of people using the EVM framework to index other chains. But that's how we're probably going to enter in the ecosystem, is start with one of the L2s. Kind of cut our teeth, and then we'll just add all the other ones.
And then can you kind of, what's the name of the EIP for the multi-tenant standard you were talking about? Like, do you have?
EIP for multi-tenant? I think it's a good question. I'm gonna have to do a lookup here to find it, but maybe I can ping you in Telegram afterwards. It's gonna take me a second to find it.
Yeah, and I also have some questions because you're very, very, very multi-chain, but when people say multi-chain, they naturally like kind of inclined to like cross-chain. So I wanted to know if you're looking at any kind of like bridging solutions, or like your thoughts on that.
Yeah, it's a great question. I don't, where we kind of lay inside the stack is we really want to be kind of this middle layer that abstracts like hardcore blockchain engineering from your team. So we've deployed, at some point, Daniel, who's my co-founder, I think he accounted for like 40% of all smart contracts on the Stacks blockchain, right? So we did a lot of the pioneering work there and set a lot of the NFT standards. Right now, we probably aren't going to be deploying any chains, but we'll be leveraging, or any bridges, but we'll be leveraging existing bridges. And so what that'll look like when we start to add bridges to our API is we'll map the bridge functions so that through the API, you're like, okay, I want to bridge this NFT to this chain, and we'll say, okay, here's the function argument you need to call in this bridging contract. Here's the arguments you need to pass in, so you can execute that bridge, and then we'll index it. And we'll index it on both sides, so you can see it going from like, let's say, near to the EVM, or like vice versa, and we'll pick up the creation of that NFT on the other side, and then track it from there.
We did have, when we were developing the architecture very early on, we had quite a bit of discussions, like knowing okay, bridging is going to be a thing as assets get bridged across multiple chains. And we want to make sure that we've got like a data layer that's going to support that. So you can actually see the NFT move from one chain to the next, and it's still kind of like represented as the same thing. So we've had like early discussions about that just to make sure we don't like block that out. But currently we're not, tracking bridging. There's not a lot of bridging going on at the moment. There is some on stacks into the EVM layers, but that's definitely on our roadmap to support.
And is that traditionally like where like the NFT bridging is heading, from like moving from from one chain to the other, or is it getting locked up, or is it getting like copied? Like how, like what are like the discussions around that?
Yeah, typically, at least the implementations that I've seen, and that makes the most sense to me, is when the NFT gets locked up on one side. So you can think of it as like your NFT goes into like an escrow contract. So NFT gets locked up, and then on the other side, there's going to be a transmission through an oracle or whatever, something like layer 0, which actually allows for like multi-chain like signing or communication at least. So you have a smart contract, say on Near, and then you have a smart contract on like an EVM chain, or say something like Aptos. And so you lock your NFT up here. You tell it when you bridge it, okay, where do I want to bridge this asset to? There's an Oracle indexer typically that's watching for new bridges, and then it's going to sign a transaction on this other chain and say, okay, create this NFT with this metadata or replicate this NFT over here. And then we're going to unlock it to this wallet. And then this wallet is going to be locked up unless the Oracle says, okay, you can unlock this NFT. And typically that happens when this NFT from this, the bridge chain comes back into the contract, and then you unlock it over here. So that's typically how like bridging of assets works.
And is like is like being that Oracle indexer something that is possible for Byzantium, or is that more like indexing what had happened?
It's a really good question. I think, if there's a market for it, like we could totally do it. I don't see any reason we couldn't. I think what we're probably going to be primarily focused on is like indexing that happened. Like this bridge happened. These NFTs are the same thing, but not actually writing to kind of that bridging contract. There's various reasons for that. One is I just don't want to take on that risk inside the business when it's our main thing is to like have this like honeypot of a contract that everything's getting locked up into. So that's kind of one reason, but also I think there's a lot of like great tooling and companies that are like dedicated to being that middle Oracle, right? That, layer 0 is a good example of this. Oracles in general. So like, we're not going to write our own Oracle to Near, but we are working with Switchboard to get all this NFT data on chain. So you can use it in an on-chain format. So we'll just kind of like bridge existing relationships for kind of the Oracle piece of it.
Yeah, that's something I'm trying to get together. I actually put the layer 0 guys, the Axelar guys, and the wormhole guys, and a bunch of other guys in the same group chat about NFT bridging, but nothing is coming too much of it. But that's what I would really love to see my NFTs travel across the chains and come back around. But yeah, I think we've been around for a while. If no one has any questions, love to end this session. And yeah, did you find that the multi-tenant stuff, or?
Oh, I didn't. I was talking, so I wasn't looking. So I'll have to ping you in.
Yeah, my bad. I started asking.
No worries.
Yeah, just send that over because I would love to see that, because yeah, I love a lot of ecosystems. I do dabble in the Ethereum ecosystem as well. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on board, and yeah, have a nice day,
We
everybody.
appreciate it. Thank you so much for having us. And Jacob, thanks for helping direct as we go through the API. If anybody has questions, feel free to ping us on Telegram or jump in our Discord, and we'd love to work with you. So we appreciate it.